Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 145 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a bit of house cleaning real quick, because, well, you guys know we always like to do this around here, and so, yeah, we're going to do house cleaning and get this over with, because why not? I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep coming back, and you keep downloading these episodes, you keep sharing these episodes, and you constantly keep letting me know how you feel about the topics we talk about, because, well, you guys are the ones that vote on them, so, you know, you guys get to vote. But I do want to say thank you guys for that. It really does mean a lot to me. As you guys can obviously see, and the background's a little bit different. We did finish the semester of college, finally. And so I'm obviously back home now. So I get to do the recordings in the room. So we have to modify the setup just a little bit. And so bear with me with this. Obviously, it's a little bit different scenery. But this is, you know, we're working with what we got. So, you know, we just got to work with it. Obviously, if you guys are listening to the audio version of the show, nothing's different because the audio version is the same thing. The only thing that's going to look different is the video version because, well, the scenery is a little bit different. But I do want to say thank you guys for your love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. Also, thank you to the Patreon backers. We actually did increase Patreon backers, so we got 2 now. So that's actually cool. In my opinion, I think that's a win because we have another Patreon backer. So obviously, if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can just click the link down below. And you can become a $2 backer to get early access to new episodes. However, I will be honest with you, we will be changing things just a slight bit and adding a few more benefits. I'm just finalizing that now because now I have a little bit more free time to get that finalized. And so bear with me with that. We're still working on it and getting it, you know, situated. But I do want to say thank you guys for everything. Obviously, you guys are great. And I do thank you guys for voting on this episode this week. Because we have 2 episodes this week, since I've already mentioned that during the winter break, I'll be able to do more episodes now. But I will say that this episode obviously won by a landslide because it's the hot topic. And so let's talk about it. We're talking about Cyberpunk 2077. And with me, it's very interesting seeing how everything is played out. I personally have not played the game. I'm personally not going to buy the game anytime soon, for my own reasons, which I will explain in today's episode. But we do want to discuss what is happening with this because it's such a big deal. And even the other episode and later in the week, the Friday episode, is also a big deal because it shows a lot of concern. It shows a lot of concerning dialogue. And with this situation, I would say there's the same level of concern, but in a different aspect. So what happened exactly? Because if you haven't already heard of what's going on, I would be shocked because I'm assuming you guys would be on Twitter and Instagram and you would obviously see all this, or on YouTube, and you would see the countless videos of people being completely upset with how Cyberpunk 2077 has turned out. And so if you haven't heard, I don't know how, but let's talk about it a little bit. So here's the brief Spark Notes. If you guys know what that is, cool. If you don't, well, now you get to know. But essentially what happened is the game came out on December 10th. After many, many months of being delayed, multiple delays, the game finally came out on December 10th. And the main issue people have is the Xbox One and the PS4 versions. Those are the 2 versions that everyone has the biggest issues with because they essentially don't work. They don't run that well. They crash, and it's just not a pleasurable experience. And it's obviously clear that they're broken. They obviously don't work. Granted, the PC version is the best version you can possibly play on because, well, the better graphic fidelity, the better settings, and you can actually run the game properly. However, you need a very, very high-end gaming PC. You need top-of-the-line parts to actually get this game to run properly, to look good, And you can't, like, I know some people say a $1,300 PC. Maybe it depends, but a lot of people recommend that you would probably use either a AMD Ryzen 9 5900 or 5950X on this thing. You would either use a 3080 or higher, so the 3080 or the 3090, or in AMD's case the 6800 XT and the 6900 XT. That these would be the two recommendable graphics, or at least the 4 graphics cards that will run this game absolutely no issues at ultra settings. And my god, like, it's, yes, on PC it's amazing. Granted, there's still bugs, there's still issues, no one's going to deny that, but when you go to the console version, it's a whole different beast. That this thing is just like, wow, like, it's really bad. Like, it's pretty bad. Granted, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and Series S are running on backwards compatibility mode right now because they do not have the next gen patch. They don't have that version. That's coming later in the year. However, when you try to run these games on the Xbox One and PS4, or Xbox One X or PS4 Pro, it's clear that this game was not designed for these consoles. And a lot of people are very upset because you see the different reviews. You see a PC review and then you see a PS4 or Xbox One review. Obviously, the PC review claims it as a 90 and above, that it's an amazing game. Yes, it has a little bit of bugs that can be worked out over time, but the console version is just horrible and it's not recommended unless if it's the Xbox Series X or the PS5 version, that if you buy it on those consoles. But even then, getting those consoles is not easy because, well, of the current situation of everything going on with scalpers, you know, the pandemic and everything like that, that it's just not easy getting this new hardware. Even the PC hardware is not even easy to get. So the PC hardware you need to run this game properly is not widely available. So you're kind of SOL at this point. And I see why a lot of people are upset, because you have a developer that blatantly lied. Some people say, wait, they didn't lie. Well, they did, because they gave reviewers access to only the PC version. Why not let them show their own gameplay? Like, they specifically limited things so that it doesn't show the full picture. And I get it. They were under a lot of crunch. Let's be honest here, because with the pandemic and with studios having to operate in a new format to design games or do whatever, that things had to be done differently. But however, this doesn't mean that it's okay. This doesn't mean that this was the right course of action. And I will say that, yes, this was not a good look for CD Projekt Red, especially for a studio that got a lot of attention and I would say held to a high standard, even though they didn't deserve to be there. Yes, I get it. They made The Witcher 3. They made the Witcher series in general, which was a very popular, beloved game series, which a lot of people consider The Witcher 3 to be the greatest game of all time, or at least one of the greatest games of all time, because there's a good amount of contenders for that title. Like, some people can say Doom Eternal, some people can say Skyrim, and some people can say The Witcher 3. And those are games that people can consider the greatest games of all time ever made. But then they made Cyberpunk, and people are like, whoa, ooh, like, they announced this a long time ago. Like, it took them 9 years to make this game. So it's a long time they've been working on it. And the fact that the game released in the state that it did on the current consoles, or at least the last gen consoles, because at the same time Cyberpunk was being worked on when those consoles were just coming out, and basically it was being worked on during the lifespan of those consoles. So it's shocking that the game doesn't run that well, or barely run. Like, it, I would argue it doesn't work at all. Like, yeah, you can get it to work, but you're gonna have to go through a ton of crashes. There's a lot of visual, like, fidelity issues. There's so much wrong with the Xbox One and PS4 version that it's not even funny. The Series X and PS5 and the Series S can also run these games incredibly well. Granted, they're running on backwards compatibility, so they're running the PS4 and the Xbox One version. However, they're running them properly, so they actually work. Granted, you still have crashes and stuff, but at least they're playable. And this is where a lot of people have issues, because they would have preferred getting the game delayed again just to make sure that it works. Yes, the PC version does work. It does have some bugs here and there, but it works, and it works flawlessly. Well, okay, it at least works 9 times out of 10. It does have some bugs. We're not going to lie that it has some pretty severe bugs. But at least it runs and you can actually play the game with no issues. However, I do agree that this game needed to be delayed, but I also blame the consumers a little bit. If I'm being like, some people say, "Ooh, Josh, you're blaming the consumers now. You're going anti-consumer now." I'm like, no, but I'm going to be honest with you that as consumers, we are to blame a little bit because we always kept complaining about the game being delayed. Let's be honest. The community was pissed that this game got delayed. It was supposed to be in April. It got delayed to November, and then it got delayed again in December. Like, people were pissed. They were like, we want this game. We've been waiting so long for this game. We want it now. And the same people that wanted it now are also the ones complaining that it's broken as all hell and they should have delayed it. That's what I'm just saying. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, in my opinion, when I think about it, I agree with how 343 is doing things, where they knew that Halo Infinite needed more time in the oven. They easily could have launched it with the Xbox Series X, like, because it was supposed to be the launch title. It was the big launch title. However, they decided, look, we're going to do what's right, and we're going to delay it a whole year extra to make sure that this thing is ready, to make sure that this thing is great. And yes, what we've seen so far, it looks much better than what we had before. And I agree that this was a smart idea. It was a big business hit because think about it. Why would you want to miss the launch of the new generation of consoles? A big time to sell games, a big time to sell consoles, and you miss out on all that money. But they did it because they knew that the game was not ready. Yes, there was fundamental things that needed to be fixed, and they decided we're going to go back, we're going to take the extra time, and we're going to make sure it's right. And right now, it looks great. What we've seen so far, it looks better than what we had before. And I think with Cyberpunk, yes, I get it. They needed the money. Let's just be honest here. Like, they knew that there was going to be big money. This game was big anticipated. It was coming in the holiday season, so a lot of people were going to buy it. And the game came out the way it did. Yes, they got all their money back. Like, I think there was like something I heard before where somebody said that they actually made all their money back that they spent making this game, like in the first couple of days. And that's insane because people were really anticipating this game. They were really wanting this game. And as a result, people found out, hey, this game is pretty buggy. It doesn't work. And they had to go out and do an actual apology, which I'm not going to question if the apology was sincere or not. I'm not going to say that, look, they're probably just, BSing through their tongue because they know they got caught. But because I don't know these people, I can't tell you that I know these people on a personal level to tell if they're lying or not. However, I do agree that they were disingenuous from the jump because they did not show gameplay. They did not allow people to review these other versions. They just wanted people to run the PC version because, well, yeah, you kind of want to promote your game in the best light. That's marketing 101. Like, you want to promote your item, product, service, whatever, in the best light possible because that's what gets people to buy it. Like, that's just common sense. Like, it's how marketing works. That's why marketing exists, and it's such an important thing in business. But to me, it's very interesting that this happened. But let this also be a lesson learned as well to the community, the gaming community, because you cannot rely on these companies to, I would say, not deliver, but you can't set expectations so high that they're not feasible to meet, because a lot of people always seem to forget that these companies are not your friends. They're out here to make money. That's just the plain simple truth. These companies are here to make money and they want your money. So they will do whatever it takes to get your money. And obviously they got your money because you went out and bought it. Granted, yes, I do agree that it was a good idea for Cyberpunk or the people at CD Projekt Red to allow people to get refunds for this game because they weren't happy and they don't want to wait to see how it gets fixed. Granted, yes, people also mentioned that The Witcher 3 launched in a similar state as well. And then over time, it got, well, here we are. The Witcher 3 is now considered one of the best games of all time because it's an incredible game. But it wasn't that way at the launch. And that's something that a lot of people need to realize is, yes, do I think they could fix it over time? Yes. I don't agree that it should be done that way because I think the game should have been ready from the jump. However, I also realize that that's also a little bit impossible to ask for because you're asking for such a big open world game that has so much detail, so much stuff crammed into it that it's very difficult to say that you want the perfect game at the jump, because it's hard. There's too many moving variables to say that this game needs to be perfect day one. And yes, I get it. Some people are like, well, that's how games were back in the day. Yes, but they weren't done to the scale that they are now. Let's just be honest here. It's easy to say that things were done the way they were in the past because things weren't as big as they were. Like, detail wasn't there. There wasn't so much graphic fidelity. There wasn't so much emphasis on big open spaces and so many NPCs. And like, there's so much detail that goes into this kind of stuff that to say that you wanted the perfect game from the jump was almost impossible to ask for, because you can't get that. There's too many variables in this situation to make this a perfect game right off the bat. Yes, I agree. When you play the PC version, I agree that some people agree. Like, I agree that this is a great game. I honestly do. But it's not perfect. The PC version still has bugs that takes you out of that immersion, especially when this is a game that wants you to be immersed, especially in the main city. Because like I said, I haven't played this game, but that's the whole point, is that a lot of people focus on the city, the main big city, because they want you to be immersed in this world and decisions, and they want you to enjoy this. But the problem is these bugs that just pop up just ruin the immersion, because that's what happens. Like, you want to be immersed. I feel like that's the best way to enjoy something, is when you're completely immersed, when you're just like just putting all your attention, all your focus on it, and you're just enjoying it so much that nothing is going to ruin this. And yet something pops up and distracts you, and then you're like, because trust me, I get upset too. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't get upset when I'm trying to enjoy myself. I'm immersed in like listening to my music, and then someone like bothers me and they tell me I have to do something, and I'm like, oh geez, like I can't have some fun, like it happens. But I think it makes it even worse when the thing that you're trying to enjoy is basically causing the distraction. So like, that's like saying you're listening to a record and then you hear a kerk, like you hear like it just shits the bed and there's a scratch. It's like, it gets annoying, like because it removes the immersion. I feel like that's always the best way to enjoy something, is when you're so immersed that all your senses are engaged, that you're just completely all senses engaged and you're enjoying yourself. And then it sucks when something disturbs it, because you're like, well, crap, now I'm distracted, and it ruins the immersion. And I feel like this game, that's the biggest thing that hurts it, is there's so many bugs, there's so many glitches that cause you to not be immersed in this game. The console version itself, you can't even get immersed at all, my guy. Like, you can't, whether you like to admit it or not. Like, I'm not going to be an apologist for CD Projekt Red. I will admit they're a great studio, but this is not a good look for them. This is not a healthy move. And I get it. They needed the money. Let's just be honest here. The money was good right now, because they're like, well, we can easily just pump this game out now and make tons of cash right now. But that's the situation we're in right now, where we have a broken game on console and a PC game that does run, but does have some pretty jarring bugs that ruin the immersion. So what do we do now? The only thing we really can do is hold CD Projekt Red accountable, because a lot of people are trying to give CD Projekt Red a pass on this, and I agree, you should not, because this also questions the integrity of reviewing as well, because it makes you wonder, do we review this game the way it is now and give it a score that it deserves right now, or do we give it a score based on what is promised to happen? I personally say that we should review the game the way it is now, both PC and console version, and as time goes on, after all the patches and everything have been implemented and everything, re-review the game and give a re-evaluation and say, okay, after all these things, this is how the game is, the final complete version of the game. But I do agree that you should not rate this game so highly and just say that the bugs aren't an issue, because they are. Like, that's my personal take, that I feel like you would be delusional to say that this game is 100% perfect, that there's no issues, that it's just BS, because you would be wrong. Like, I'm sorry, objectively speaking, you are wrong, because this game has jarring bugs, has so many issues with it that it's not even funny, and people are still saying it's a 10 out of 10. It's not. I would say because of the bugs, it would probably drop to a 7 to an 8 out of 10 easily. And if it's really that bad, the console versions, dude, this thing's probably like a 2 to 3 out of 10 easily, because of how bad, like, the game just doesn't work. And I feel like it's interesting because you're seeing people give CD Projekt Red a pass on this, and I say that is not okay. You should not give them a pass on this. You as a consumer should be striving and wanting better from developers. You should be pushing them like, look, we will not tolerate crap like this. This is not cool. Because no other industry, like, being honest, if you went to a car dealership and you bought a car and the car looked great on the outside and they promoted it like it was the greatest thing ever, but when you drive it, the transmission instantly blows up, is that not dangerous? Is that not something that just completely ruins it? Because now you're like, well, the car looked great and it was cool. I still say it's a great car, yet I had a big issue with the transmission failing. Like, no, that's not how that works. Like, you don't do that. No other industry does that. Why are you giving them a pass when nobody else is? Think about it. Even the smartphone industry, when companies implement changes that are not welcomed, people will give them shit for it. And if they decide to change it, then cool, they change it. But if they don't, people will constantly give them shit for it, and they'll constantly keep seeing their sales decline and decline because they're making decisions that people do not appreciate. Why do you think the smartphone market didn't appreciate as prices continue to go up and up and up, that we hit $1,000 for a smartphone for $1,000? People were not too happy. So what did companies do? They realized they were losing profits. So what they did was they made cheaper, affordable options. That's what they did. They made prices cheaper, and they still kept cheaper phones with good parts and good quality. Yes, they were more affordable and the higher end options are still available, but you're giving them more options to meet consumers halfway because you want to please the consumers. Companies know this. They know that if you can't please consumers, you're kind of SOL, because that's your revenue, whether you like it or not. It's not going to be your shareholders. It's not going to be them. Your consumers are the ones that are paying for your products and to use your products so that you get money. Like, that's essentially what's happening. Like, you want to please the consumers. And I feel like CD Projekt Red is doing the necessary things to remedy the situation. I know they're hard at work trying to get these patches out and try to get this game running properly on the PS4 and Xbox One version, and then also getting the Series X and the PS5 version, which a lot of people are anticipating, how that's going to turn out, because yeah, it's a pretty big version because it's the next gen version. So we're going to see how those perform and see if how many bugs they have too, because that's also a big concern, is how buggy are these versions going to be? They haven't even come out yet. I do agree there'll probably be a good healthy point between the PC and the last generation consoles, that it will definitely be a good looking game that probably close on par with PC, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens, to be honest. However, how do you guys feel about the situation? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you're watching on YouTube, you can, like the video, dislike the video, do whatever you like. And if you haven't subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you can get notified when these videos go live. If you're listening to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast, I greatly appreciate you guys coming back and listening to today's episode. Please share it. Please, download it, do whatever you want to it, and let me know how you guys feel. Do you guys agree that CD Projekt Red does not deserve a pass on this? Do you believe they do? And what reasoning do you have behind it? Because I feel like this is a healthy way to have a discussion with the community and see, how do people view this situation, and how do you guys interpret what's going on? Like, what do you want out of the situation? What do you think would be a good course of action? And pretty much, where do we go from here? Because the easiest answer is we have to just wait and see how the patches turn out and see if they keep their end of the deal and actually fix the game. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, or hit me up on my social medias in the link down below. I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. Please continue to have a wonderful week, because, well, we're only halfway through the week now. And, this is going to be interesting. This year is still crazy. 2020 is still one of those years where it's just like, oh, Lord, this year is crazy. But obviously, Friday's episode is going to be really fun. We're going to be talking about another situation similar to this, but with NVIDIA, because, oh boy, NVIDIA, you guys are some special boys. Oh boy, this is going to be fun talking about that situation. But I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. Have a wonderful week, guys, and I will see you guys Friday. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Hey there, thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.